My gosh, that reunion between Healing and Boji did not last very long. Well, we technically got another reunion in this particular episode, episode 15 of Ranking of Kings. Definitely a phenomenal episode. As always, it sucks because by the end of it, I'm going, we're getting close to the end, aren't we? And I want more. I want more. Please just keep going. Just make every episode a 5-hour-long episode for all I care. But yeah, great episode. I think I guess the pinnacle point of this whole thing, this entire episode, was probably the reunion between Boji and Domas. This was something that I honestly forgot. I didn't forget that Domas betrayed Boji, but just the idea of, yeah, I guess technically eventually Boji's going to have to confront Domas. And I always kind of took it from the perspective of Domas. Like, what is he going to feel? I never really took the mindset of what is Boji going to think? Obviously, this is a big issue. And sure enough, they kind of addressed it at the very beginning when they tell Boji, okay, take these monsters. They have to go back to the underworld. There's an entrance downstairs. Go check that out. And yeah, the question came up is, oh wait, Domas is going to go destroy it. So you're probably going to run into Domas. And oh yeah, by the way, it's not going to be easy for Boji. Now I can make arguments about like the whole issue of like, why did Healing and Dorsch stay behind? We need to rest. So go by yourself with all these beasts that we just cured. I mean, it was a little bit of a issue there, but other than that, it's like, okay, now we have to go down there. We have to figure this out. And it seemed like pretty much the rest of the show was really kind of centered around that. As we find out that the Order of the Underworld is coming in as Domas is going down there to destroy the entrance to the Underworld. And yeah, Domas has to make this final stand against the entire army, which he's doing pretty well. I got a huge kick out of, I guess there's technically an issue here where Domas isn't really saying, look, I'm going to stop you. He's just saying, look, I don't know what the situation is. Stop. Like, you can't just come in here, but I'm not wanting to kill you. He's using the blunt end of his blade because he doesn't want to claim them as bad guys. There's obviously something going on, and I need to understand it before we do anything. But they keep pushing because obviously Desher's right behind them coming in. They're wanting to push forward. They can't just stop there. But yeah, I got a kick out of that Subu Kade guy. He comes up and got this big old blade, and Domas is obviously intimidated by this guy, but he's swinging it around. So he's like, man, you're really skilled, aren't you? And the guy blushes. This stupid helmet has got a blush mark on it. That didn't take him long to take down that guy, though. But then, yeah, that's when Desher shows up, and that's when, obviously, things were going to get real. Desher's coming in. He's talking about how he realized, I thought this was going to be easy. I figured this whole place was in disarray, but it looks like we're going to have to actually fight. And that's when he steps forward. And yeah, Domas isn't really standing up against him at all. And I didn't really think it was going to, honestly. I mean, this is a guy that is up at the level of Bose. Bose obviously is stronger than him. That's why he claims that he never did it before. But now he figures because he's in a child's body, he's going to be somebody that he can take on, which from our perspective, I don't really necessarily think that's the case. I mean, he could have some sort of power limit based on him being in Daita's body, but he's already showed that he could do something that he was able to do before. He was able to crush this log to show Healing that he's actually Bose. So it indicates, at least from that perspective, he can still do what he was able to do before. Now, if he has a greater power than that he isn't able to replicate now that he's in Daita's body, that's the big question mark. But yeah, he fakes out Domas, kicks him in what I'm assuming is a twig and berries. I thought that he just kicked him in the stomach, but apparently he got the twig and berries. So that was wrong. But then that's when, yes, Gigan carrying Boji and Kage jumps down, and Desher calls them to take him down. They kind of are failing at that. Eventually he zaps Gigan, and yeah, we had that first moment between Domas realizing that Boji's alive, and he is just absolutely sorrowful. I don't accept it yet. I mean, he technically needs to get up in front of Boji and apologize, but yeah, that was, again, I didn't really, for some reason, gather what kind of reaction Boji would have, and it really does feel like, at least what they were portraying and what Kage is saying he feels is in Boji is this sense of resentment and hatred. He feels this hatred within Boji, which, again, I wasn't really expecting. I was expecting Boji to be either maybe terrified of Domas, like he had that trust in Domas and Domas betrayed it, so he's terrified that he'll do it again, or maybe just sorrowful, like this is this guy that was my master and he betrayed me. But it doesn't really go that route. Again, he gets mixed up. There's like a mixing up of his emotions, and he can't really figure out what he's going to feel, and Kage sees that. And that was, again, the word hatred was weird. I didn't really expect them to really get that emotion with Boji. Everything we've really gotten an indication of Boji has always been kind-hearted. He's loving, he's caring, he's trusting, he's yes, sad and hurt as well, because obviously his issues and people making fun of him, but never hatred. I always kind of assumed he was going to be an always good boy. I never really figured that this writer was going to get into hatred as an emotion. And yeah, it technically shows it. It shows Bojji gritting his teeth. He's mad. And again, I'm happy that we're actually getting into that emotion. It shows Bojji is not just a one-sided white knight. He does fall into those realms of hatred. He does have anger. He can feel those emotions, and he can get swept up in it. Now, granted, if they're going to get into it any further than that, obviously in this case, Kage is soothing him and telling him, look, it's okay. He's even yelling out to Domas, you should be ashamed of yourself, just to kind of throw some kind of wrench into the situation. Let's throw something to shake things up really quickly to stop Bojji. Because Boji's stuck here. I need to do something right now to shake the situation up to get him out of that. And again, as per usual, Kage is amazing. I love it. I love how supporting he is of Bojji. But again, I'm curious if we'll get back to that emotion. Will we get back to Bojji being mad? It's cool. I like it. But yeah, Domas decides to give up his life as an apology and jumps off the thing and slams on his head. Gets angry because he's too well trained that can't kill him, because otherwise he would do it. I don't know. Domas is going to have to do a little more than jumping off of staircases to prove himself, and he's doing that. He's shielding Bojji from Desher. He's obviously putting himself out there now that he knows this mistake he made, it's not as far as he thought that mistake would get, and now he can possibly do something to fix it. He made this mistake. He essentially threw him off the cliff, but now he has a chance to at least show that he, in his current mind, would catch him from that cliff. Yeah, and then at this point, Domas is, pushing Desher more, because they just kind of earlier talked about this idea that, Desher was coming here to take down Bose. He figured it was going to be easy, as well as the idea that he doesn't plan on killing anybody. He's just here to gather these people that were taken from his kingdom. Obviously, somebody in this kingdom broke some laws, came into his castle, released his criminals, and now, in the mindset of Desher, they invaded him first, and so he has all the right to be there. And this is where when Desher was really beating up Domas, and he had this goofy, wicked laugh about himself, when he just kicked him in the twig and berries, he's just kind of just cackling about how he's unsightly and he's not as tough as he is, and all this kind of stuff. I kind of laugh with it because we technically haven't established Desher's a bad guy. He's just a guy. He's a king somewhere else. Even his experience talking to Bojji, he's not a bad guy. He was just kind of pointing out how weak Bojji was, and he would never bother to help the son of Bose. So it was kind of, I don't really have a hatred for Desher right now. So it's really cool to kind of see him come in, and technically from his vantage point, he's not a bad guy in this situation either. He's like, look, you invaded me, you took my criminals, and I'm here to take out this one person. I don't want to kill anybody. He could have probably splat Domas against the wall and be done with it. Like, he could have came up there, dead. But no, he's mocking him, obviously. He's knocking him down. And then at this point, we established Desher's only here for one life. Yes, he also plans on probably taking over the kingdom because this kingdom attacked him. It's at its weakest. Why not? But also Miranjo, which again, we technically hit on at the very end of the last episode. Miranjo is this unending life that will eventually end up like Oken, and he needs to stop that. But additionally, at the very last line of the episode, we're establishing that he is going to make Miranjo pay with her life for what she has done. Now, I can assume that's not releasing Oken and stuff. I don't think he means that. She's obviously done something else that he is coming to exact revenge for. It's probably going to fit into, again, maybe some entire villages that she wiped out. So I guess my question really is going to lie in, is it everything she's been doing that we're kind of observing? All this kind of manipulation that she's doing, obviously releasing these criminals? Or is it going to go back further than that? And we're going to get into more of that aspect of what Dido was seeing. Is it possibly this other kingdom that claimed that she was at fault? Again, I'm going back to what I feel like this writer does. I think this writer is eventually going to redeem Miranjo. And I think that's probably going to be in the idea that this village claimed that Miranjo was at fault for some bad stuff that happened. They retaliated and tore her to shreds, and maybe Desher's playing off of that. This kingdom thinking that she was at fault. Or is it going to turn into, yes, technically Miranjo did something terrible, or she was manipulated by somebody? That's going to be the question mark. And again, like I said, I think the writer is so good at this stuff, it's probably going to be more in the realm that she is going to be redeemable, and there's going to be some story behind that. Whether it's going to be redeemable to the effect that it makes everything okay, probably it could not. It could be a case where it's going to redeem her as it being, one, she's manipulated, or two, it's not as what it seems, or it's a retaliation, her protecting herself. And it's funny because we're at a state right now where I really don't know what direction we're going, because usually people are kind of placed in certain places where I'm like, yeah, assuming that they're going to go this route. I honestly think that it's probably going to be a face-off between Desher and Boji. I think Boji's probably good, because that's what I've seen when the moment that they were going to go down there and then Desher showed up, I'm like, we're finally going to get that point in which Boji shows Desher he's gotten better. And maybe it'll be a thing where Desper tells Desher, he's not the same, you should stop. I trained him now. He knows my skill. You need to stop. Or if it'll be a case, again, where you do have Boji finally, because even Desher's making fun of him. He's like, oh, you're that useless one. Why are you here? You didn't amount to nothing before. You're not going to amount to nothing now. Is it going to be Boji just taking him down with a single strike and showing him that he's gotten stronger? Or is it going to be a thing where they'll get to an agreement and they'll all go up together and we'll have Desher side by side with Boji and Domas all going up against Apis? Obviously, all these question marks with Zoku and Black and Red and all them that have Moranjo now. I honestly, besides Bose, and again, yes, technically question mark with Zoku, we're running out of difficult targets. I guess I'll just say that. The only real, yes, technically right now, again, Desher is at odds with Boji in this current scene. But I can see Desher walking side by side with Boji right now, because obviously there's one big threat, which is Moranjo. So the only real threat we have is the question mark of what Zoku can do. Again, he could have just tricked him. He could have tricked Appius. But you also have Bose. Bose is the only other target within the system before it's all going to kind of get resolved. We only have technically 8 more episodes left. It's a 23 episode series. So we still have plenty of time. We still have something to get into. And I think really probably the build up right now is going to be to what happened with Moranjo. We're probably going to get into her whole backstory and then really get to a resolution of what's going to happen with the kingdom and Daida and Bose. So, but we'll see. That's my thoughts on this episode. Hope you guys enjoyed this impressions. If you did, leave a like down below. Comment. Let me know what you thought of the episode. Subscribe if you haven't already. Share this video if you can. Support us on Patreon or through our tips link in the description below. Definitely appreciate everybody that does. And y'all take care.